Marquette University.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to try and do it without a microphone, just because I don't like to hear myself talk. We're also going to try and dim the lights a little bit so you can see this and fall asleep if you need to. Hopefully I'm not that boring. So, as she mentioned, I am Doug Hines. I am a computer systems engineer from Marquette University's College of Engineering. And every year I have 350 new freshmen that I have to talk to about technology. Specifically, we have a laptop program that these students are required to participate in order to do their CAD-based software in class. It's a hands-on type of learning that we're really focused on. In order to do that, you have to have certain laptops. So this is what I get to see 4 times every summer. I do 4 sessions, 4 preview sessions, talking to students and their parents about technology. Where are the computer labs? What software is installed on them? How do they use printers? And then that laptop program. Now, some of the students are feverishly writing down notes, trying to take every little word in. Others are off tweeting and trying to stay awake, because yet one more administrator is talking to them. The important part they find is this right here. I know it's a little fuzzy to see, so I'll tell you the important points. This is our leaflet that we include in every new engineer's packet talking about that laptop program. First and foremost, I tell them, buy your laptop through PDS. We have a great working relationship with them. The laptops that we recommend to them have been vetted by me, and they've also been certified by specifically Siemens for the NX software. It comes pre-installed. They have a 4-year warranty. They also have the option of buying an upgraded accidental thing, which I've talked to one of their repair guys. Sometimes is important for freshman engineers. They don't realize that computers are fragile things. I also say, no, you don't have to go through PDS, but it's not a great idea. I can't guarantee that Siemens is going to certify whatever laptop you buy. There's quite a few of them out in the wild. I don't have the time or the resources to go through all of them to vet the software. And the last one, which I usually get groans for, don't buy a Mac. Engineering software, unfortunately, is not written for a Mac, and I know some of you out there are saying, yes, but AutoCAD now works on a Mac. To yes and no. So, with those last 2, I get the biggest groans. You should buy from PDS because the laptops work, but if you do buy it outside, I can't guarantee the software's going to work. Don't buy a Mac when all these kids have probably already got Macs for graduation or Christmas or whatever else. So, with those last 2 statements, by giving people a choice in what system they want, I remove the ability to provide outstanding customer service. At Marquette, we have a phrase, per personalis, which means the whole person. And by doing these 2 restrictions, I remove their creativity in choosing a laptop. It's a little bit of what Nolan Bushnell talked about earlier today. Try not to stifle that. One of the things that we need to focus on is that this engineering software is monolithic. And if you don't have the right system, your software will crash. It will run slowly, or it won't run at all. Not only that, but these workstation-grade laptops are not cheap. They just paid however many thousands of dollars to come to Marquette, and now we're asking them to spend another $2 to $3 grand to buy this mobile workstation. That's a hard lime wedge to swallow for a lot of parents and students. I don't know if any of you have sons and daughters that are either on their way to college or are already in college. Imagine if I stood up in front of you and told you, thank you for your tuition dollars, but I need a little bit extra. You wouldn't be too happy. Now, those of you who don't work in education, I can hear you grumbling, great, he's just going to talk about education. I promise you I'm not, because you have freshmen as well. You're new employees. They're motivated, at least these couple are. They're eager, they really want to get to work. You've just spent however many weeks getting them through their training sessions. They need to get the tools to do their work. They need a cubicle, they need a computer, they need the software, they need to get going. That way you can start collecting on that return of investment. So what are you going to do? Well, the common answer is, well, I'm going to buy them the tools they need. And that's the same thing our professors do. They buy them the tools that their students need. We give them power. We buy these awesome workstations. We buy these high-powered mobile workstations. We have professors doing biotech, nanotech, water quality, and they're working on clean energy. We give them the 69 GTO of machines. There's also a problem with doing that. Sure, we can run the software, but now we have underutilization. And trust me, these aren't the most disgusting of ones I've found. There are other far worse. No student, be it freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, or grad student, or even your workers, works 24 hours a day. That means that computer sits dormant anywhere between 4 to 6 hours or for a week. So, how can we solve these problems? How can we handle the hardware and software requirements that these high-end AutoCAD, SolidWorks, NX, Pro-E, now Creo, or whatever have you need? How do we work on better utilization of the hardware that we buy? And of course, let's throw in the fact that we want to go mobile. We want to have access to all of these apps, these great high-end applications, either in the dorm room, at home, or outside the office at a coffee shop. It'd be great to go to Starbucks in the morning, and while you're waiting for your coffee, check in on any progress reports or things that you need before you get to the office. So really, truly, this is not a new idea. It's called software as a service. In general, it's like having iTunes or the Google Play. I didn't include BlackBerry on there, sorry. It's like having that on your system. The difference between having that on an iPhone or an Android phone and then what we're talking about today is while you're using the programs don't exist on the system. They exist off of this nebulous thing that everybody calls the cloud, which really and truly for us IT people is the data center that we keep air conditioned and hopefully redundantly backed up. Now sure, for years people have been doing the easy programs, your Word, your Excel, your PowerPoint. Those are easily knocked out by our friend the Angry Bird. What if we want the AutoCAD, SolidWorks, the NX7? How do we worry about the big guys that need the power, that need the processing, specifically need 3D graphics capability? Well, I worked with Microsoft down in Chicago. I've also done a lot of work with the Citrix guys. Please don't understand this isn't a commercial for any of this. This is just the people that I've worked with, and I know the software works. We use what's called the GPU pass-through by combining Citrix Zen Server with Citrix Zen App. We take the nice graphics card, we stuff it inside a pizza box size server, and then we're able to pass that out. Now once again, I hear people saying, sure, we've been able to do this for years in a one-to-one scenario through remote desktop or any number of VDIs that allow the one-to-one relationship to a graphics card and a user. But we don't want that anymore. I have 350 freshmen. I don't want to buy 350 graphics cards. I want a one-to-many solution. So I started working with a couple of partners, PDS, HP, Citrix, and we actually did 2 POCs that I'm going to do my best to demo here, but I want to talk to you about them real quick. The first POC is I took some junior level engineers, people who've already gone through the basics, they understand the software, they know how it should work on a desktop, on a workstation. We used HP DC7900 desktop clients. We had no advanced GPUs in there, and the class was about 20 to 25 students, depending on which period we were using. I stood up one VM with one mid-grade NVIDIA Quadro graphics card. And all of those students were able to use that server to do their classwork. And they told me they couldn't tell the difference between whether the program was running locally on their system or was running in the cloud. The only thing that was different is they had to log in twice. Once to the computer and once to the cloud software. It's just because of the way I configured it. The other POC I did was with freshman level engineers. I had an array of machines. I wanted to test out this wireless capability. I had Android phones and tablets. I had iOS, iPods, and iPhones. Introducing Macs into this was also a big test. We were in one building on one side of campus. The server existed in another side, which meant we were on a different subnet, plus we were using the wireless, so this was a large test for me. 10 to 15 students with that amalgam of devices. Once again, they were unable to tell the difference between working at a workstation and actually using the software in a cloud. The difference being, if there's any engineers in the room who know how to use the software, you don't have that middle mouse button, which is really annoying when you're trying to turn a shape, having to right-click every time. So, with that, I'm a big believer in showing you guys the stuff that I've done, not just talking about it. So I have a setup here, and I'd like to walk through a couple of demo things. First thing I have is called broken view. This is an error we have given this name to for devices while they're trying to run the Siemens NX software. The full 3D image looks broken. It doesn't look filled in. Lines are going off in the wrong direction. It'll be the image on your left. Just a second. Two seconds. 3 seconds. Well, I knew something was going to go wrong, so here it is. I apologize. I do want to show these things to you. Give me just 1 second. This worked in the dry run. There we go. Not as elegant, but it gets the idea across. So what we're looking at here is the same program run on 2 different types of hardware. On the left, we have the Siemens NX with the wagon wheel part being run directly off the laptop. Obviously, the part is not filled in. It's improperly formed. On the right, we have 2 things. One, we have it run in the cloud via the Citrix Zen app setup. Part is all filled in. It looks smooth. Not only that, but I have a thumb drive sticking out of this computer, and it's pulling the part off the thumb drive. So you have local storage being passed through, so the students won't be taking up storage on the server. For the enterprise people in the room, you may want to keep all of your designs, your healthcare files in the data center and protected. But at the same point in time, you also might want to have some files accessed from home, and this is quite an elegant solution. Just to kind of prove to you that this is running and working and it's not just an image. There's that one. And there's that one. So right there, we have the way of removing OS requirements. I don't necessarily need Windows, because I can run this on anything. I don't need high-end graphics requirements or processor requirements, because this is all being run in the cloud. And I also have a reduced overhead on my storage creation, because now I can do a pass-through of either the local hard drive or even USB storage devices. The next part's going to be a little tricky. I know it's small, but forgive me. This is SolidWorks. This is CAD-based drawing software with a 3D part running on an iPad. So here we're able to demonstrate another 2 things. One, I have 2 live sessions running off the same server using the same graphics hardware, 2 different operating systems, and now once again, I don't need the big graphics processing. I can just run it on an iPad. And it doesn't matter the iPad. I know the new one has the Retina display, but who cares? We're getting screen scrapes and mouse movement. We're also wireless with that. With the iPad, you do not have the availability of the USB pass-through because there is no USB port on that. I have not been able to test the USB on the go that's being provided by Android-based devices. If you have one, I welcome you to come up and let me play with your device a little bit. And now I need my original presentation back. Thank you for your understanding. So I've shown you the broken view. I've shown you how removing the necessary needs, the necessity of using high-end graphics gives your students or your employees the choice to bring whatever device they want, or you can start providing whatever device you feel is necessary. We've removed the need of using boot camp. I'm sorry to any VMware guys in the room, and Parallels. We can just run it in the cloud and have the people log in. We can run CAD software on a mobile device. You no longer have to be in the lab. You no longer have to be at the office. You don't have to even remote in, short of using a web address to access the application library. Multiple software versions. I attempted to get a free copy of SolidWorks 2010 so that way I could demonstrate both SolidWorks 2011 and 2010 working. However, my vendors, though politely, they did say no. But you can do that. If you have software developers, they're using one version of Java and they need to test out another. Or they're using Visual Studio's 2010 and 2012 is almost on its way out. And they want to make sure that their code works in both libraries. You can do that with the cloud. Multiple users on one system. We now have the ability to take these big monolithic servers and share the resources. Perhaps you have more than one site across the US or around the world, and you want to better utilize your servers 24 hours a day. It's no longer one system for one user, it's one system for many users. The last thing I have that I didn't put on here is that last minute thought. As an IT guy, I get a number of people that call me last minute. I need XYZ software, and I need it 5 minutes ago. Well, thanks guys, that's not enough time to get to wherever your computer's at, do the installation, and then allow you to teach your class. You also can't say no when the CEO calls and says, I need this software. It doesn't matter if they're around the world, you need to get to them now. With this, you're able to profile specifically, go to the server, add that program, or you don't have to install it, you can install it and give it to their account. Not everybody has to have access to every piece of software. It can be profile specific just like it is on a desktop. And with that, I think that we've solved at least a few of my problems. We've reduced costs by only buying the servers for multiple users. We've been able to provide choice for your new employees as well as my students. And we no longer have these hiccups like broken view. I appreciate your time and I open up the floor for questions.
Question?
Sir.
How much did that cost you?
The server itself, I used a Z600 plus educational discounts and software. I'm going to give you a rough estimate. Please don't hold me to it. All right? With licensing and all that, I'm going to say good estimate would be, I'm trying to, because we use the enterprise version, 30 grand would be a good estimate.
So you could get 350 students on a 30 grand investment?
I didn't say I could get 350 students, but it is cheaper than buying 350 workstations. The big cost is, of course, software licensing. Not to say that hardware is cheap, but software licensing is the expensive thing. Any other questions?
So what devices did you have up on the podium?
Thank you. I'm sorry. Once we got into hardware defects, I kind of lost my train of thought. I used a Lenovo tablet. I used an iPad 2. I also had demonstrations for an Android phone as well as the Macintosh I'm using myself. But with all the hardware problems we're running into, I didn't want to demonstrate it. Now, if you want to see all these devices in action, or if you yourself want to come up and draw something in SolidWorks, AutoCAD, or whatever, I'm going to be up in the Epiphany Center tomorrow with this whole setup. Please feel free to stop by and draw me something.
And also, what virtualization recipe do you have there?
Virtualization recipe. On the server itself, it's Zen server. And then on top of that, you install, obviously, a VM of Server 2008 R2. And on top of that, you install Zen app.
And on the client side?
On the client side, you can do a number of things. You have to have the Citrix receiver. You can either do a Citrix receiver installed locally, and then the apps look like they're actually installed in your start menu. Or you can go through kind of a web access sort of way, which is the first way that I did it. I preloaded all of this, I'm sorry, but it would take too long for me to log in. Of course, it took me too long to switch devices up as well. Sir?
Have you figured out what cost per user or what the solutions provide you? And then also, are you making students pay for this, or are you just including the tuition?
Let me answer this backwards. The model of having the students pay for it has come up in a number of different ways. The students pay a book fee for, obviously, their books, so why couldn't they pay a book fee for this? However, that type of discussion is at a level of administration that's above me. So I can't provide you an answer there. We've also talked about if we're going to open this up to research labs on campus, which are privately funded by grants and things like that, would they then pay us a fee for the use of this system? That's also been discussed and is at a level above me. Have I done a cost per user? Yes, I have. And the cost I was able to narrow down to the same amount as a standard desktop that we're buying with no graphics capabilities whatsoever. So we have a program that refreshes our computers every 4 years. It's gone to 6 years now. We call it the computer replacement program. The cost would be the same, but the performance would increase. So I hopefully answered your question.
What type of increased bandwidth requirements do you see with these high-intensity graphic applications?
That is a question I'm at this time unable to answer, but it's something that I'm working on. I need to get 350 users capable of jumping on this and start monitoring the network. That also means I have to work with the networking side of the house, and I haven't brought them into this conversation. But it is something that they are very curious about how much, because we already have students doing YouTube, doing Netflix, doing Hulu. What type of load is this going to throw on there?
I can't imagine it being much because, again, all you're doing is screen scrapes and
Mouse movement.
mouse movement.
Right. So hopefully the ICA connection that you're passing over the wire is small. But I can't properly answer your question, and I don't want to lead you down the wrong path. Sir?
Was that 30 grand, but basically your lab or the 20, 25 users?
That would have been licensing, that would have been graphics cards and the server itself. So 30 grand, I would have actually probably gotten up to 50 users with the 30 because I would have put 2 graphics cards in the system and split it out to 2 VMs.
What's the concurrency saturation? How many users at one time before they start experiencing
I was
latency?
waiting for that question. I really was. I appreciate it. Okay, so how many users can we stick onto the system? In watching the resources in the resource manager, the RAM was never touched, the processor was, and I don't have a good tool to monitor the graphics. But the graphics is the delimiting factor. So I was able to put the 20 to 25 kids, and we still had room for more. And in case anybody's curious, it was an FX 580. So do I know exactly how many users I could put on a graphics card? No. I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. That's still in the works. I'm trying to figure that out. But I know I can definitively get those 20 to 25 kids. And that's on a mid-grade graphics processor. Understand we could go up to the Quadro 6000 at this point, or any number of ATI graphics cards and start testing that out. Be a great white paper.
Well, that was the question. Are you going to publish what you find in the next few months, maybe on the PDS website?
I will talk to PDS. I'd love to do that, actually. Thank you for suggesting. Sir?
So you're saying that if you put a second card in, you could then have a second VM, but is there ability to have multiple graphics cards within one VM, SLI or something?
Yes, yes you can. Now we're starting to get on kind of like the Citrix discussion on how this works. And in my talks with them, yes, as long as Windows can recognize it as one graphics card, so SLI or Crossfire I think is the other one, then it will pass that horsepower through. My goal was, instead of having the most amount of horsepower in one system, to stick more than one VM so I can increase the amount of users. Sir?
Is there a ratio to the graphic card's capabilities, memory, processor, to how many students are on it?
That's similar to his question, and we're still working on finding that answer out for you.
At what point
At what point
card
it starts
is
to
gonna start
degrade.
performing, yeah.
Right, right. Well, if there are no more questions, I really appreciate everybody coming to the session. Hopefully you take something away that you didn't know before. And once, oh, yes?
Has someone mentioned Twitter to you yet?
Yes, somebody, yes. A number of people have already mentioned Twitter. Thank you. Once again, I will be upstairs with this whole setup, so if you want to see it running on another device, if you want to draw, or if you want to see some of the drawings that my students have done, please come visit me upstairs at the Epiphany Center tomorrow. Thank you. Really early. Sir. Okay, so in real world aspect, I will tell you right away, using this on an iPad pisses me off. Because that middle button is missing, and in order to move that button, you zoom in, you really need it. Otherwise, that you're right clicking so many times to switch between like pan or zoom or rotate. There's probably a case for these things. Check in on something. What they normally do, I asked them, would you use them? They said yes. If I need to do a presentation and I want to show my card, or if somebody wants to give me a card, or if I need to talk with somebody in the hallway. Okay. That was kind of the use case for the mobile device.
The heavy-duty usage would make sense anyway, I guess.
You want that keyboard sound.
Okay, thanks.
Hi. Let me come down on your leg. I don't need to be up here. Okay.
So it's interesting.
I work with Joel and Joe
From
Citrix. You were at so Zerimba, and if it's in its POC, we're going funding at this point, I will be the one. I've gotten 2 CCAs for Citrix, so I will be the one that stands it up, supports it.
Okay.
So I'll also be the architect.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. That's why I went.
They did have, this is only because I told them, they did have a Citrix guy through.
Yeah. And then the other part of things was we're not a government market, we have a gap in the middle of us, right? So you're using formats that we don't.
Okay.
Have you worked with any really good jobs to know what small ends goes on?
We'll run these?
Yeah.
You mean like for the server or for the client?
No, fine.
Oh, we had this really crappy Dell.
I mean,
It was able to
crappy
run.
old Yahoo,
Yeah.
right? And it's
As
fine.
I would say that you still need that gigabit connection or high-end wireless.
Yep.
And once you have that, it doesn't matter.
Really?
Because all the stuff's back over here.
Our next whole thing is to take like references, set it up.
It'll
And
work.
set it up, it's done, and I'd rather just have somebody go, don't worry about it, just, it's gonna be fine.
On to the next thing.
Love it.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I was wondering what level of server you were using for 2025.
Okay, because we have like, are you looking at the VM question, or what was the actual bare hardware? Bare hardware, it was a C600 dual quad-core but the VM specifically was only a quad-core index core. And they were
Aren't HP the best workstations in the whole world, I heard?
Where you would normally just separate two apart.
No, I heard this.
They were just shaking, making it spin as fast as possible. They also animated in a cycle, and they kicked it up.
He's with Apple.
They turned the cycle to 5.
Basically,